he is out there saying these things
Right.
that can be damaging to your children. So how do you react?
How are they not damaging to your children?
Yeah.
I mean, are you just...
We intend to name people in these lawsuits. We're not going to do it in interviews. We're not going to do it, without doing our due diligence, because obviously, these types of allegations are...
If you're a celebrity in Hollywood right now, you're probably sweating bullets because the entertainment world is holding its breath for what could be the industry's most explosive trial of all time. The name Sean Combs, better known as Diddy, has become the epicenter of a swirling storm of allegations, lawsuits, and whispers of secrets that could shatter the carefully curated images of some of the biggest stars on the planet. And the countdown has officially begun. On May 12th, the trial everyone's been dreading, or secretly hoping for, is set to begin. But the real story isn't just about Diddy. It's about the ripple effect. It's about how one man's legal troubles could drag an entire network of celebrities, moguls, and power players into the harshest spotlight imaginable. This isn't just a scandal, it's a reckoning.
Like you put yourself in that.
Absolutely, I did. That was my fault.
Maybe they're saying that you don't take accountability.
No, that was my fault. I didn't want to have children with this person after the first 2 months of being with her. But that wasn't God's plan.
I did not.
For decades, Diddy has been the king of the scene, the man throwing the most exclusive parties, rubbing elbows with everyone who mattered, and building an empire that cemented him as one of the most influential figures in music and culture. But that influence came with a price that might now be paid not just by Diddy himself, but by the people who have stood beside him, partied with him, worked with him, and perhaps looked the other way. At the center of this web are Jay-Z and Beyoncé, the so-called royal couple of the music industry. They've spent years crafting a public image as untouchable icons. Jay, the savvy businessman and lyrical genius; Beyoncé, the savvy businessman and lyrical genius; Beyoncé, the radiant queen whose every move seems calculated to perfection. Together, they've built a fortress around their lives, a boundary so tight that even the most seasoned paparazzi struggle to breach it. But as Diddy's legal troubles mount, cracks are forming in the walls of that fortress. Suddenly, the Carters are scrambling to distance themselves from a man they were once so frequently seen alongside, and that, in itself, raises questions.
This morning, rap mogul Jay-Z is denying allegations he sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl alongside rapper Sean Diddy Combs. That civil lawsuit filed against Combs in October was amended Sunday to include Jay-Z. The accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, says she was sexually assaulted by both men.
Jay-Z and Diddy's history goes back decades to an era when both were young men hustling their way to the top of an unforgiving industry. Back then, their paths crossed often. They collaborated on tracks, attended the same events, and even seemed to mirror each other's rise. For years, they were photographed courtside at basketball games, huddled together at award shows, and partying at events so exclusive that most people didn't even know they were happening. And let's not forget that Jay was close friends with the notorious B.I.G., Diddy's flagship artist, and perhaps the defining figure of his career. Their connection wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. But here's where things get murky. While Diddy's reputation was always tied to his larger-than-life persona, his wild parties, his loud parties, his lavish spending, his endless entourage, Jay-Z's brand has always been more controlled, more calculated. And now, as lawsuits pile up against Diddy, naming names and pointing fingers, the question becomes, how much did Jay know? And more importantly, how much did he ignore? Because the lawsuits aren't just targeting Diddy. They're casting a shadow over everyone who was in the room, everyone who shared a toast, everyone who might have witnessed something they shouldn't have.
In a blistering statement, Jay-Z accuses Jane Doe's attorney of trying to blackmail him. He said further, quote, "These allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one. Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. Would you not agree?"
It's not just speculation anymore. In a civil lawsuit filed late last year, both Diddy and Jay-Z were named in connection with an alleged incident from over 2 decades ago. The details of the accusations are jaw-dropping, but what's even more shocking is the timing. The lawsuit dropped just as Diddy's legal troubles began snowballing, almost as if the floodgates had opened. And while Jay-Z's legal team has been quick to deny any involvement, calling the claims ridiculous and inflammatory, the damage was already done. Public opinion doesn't wait for court decisions. The timing of that lawsuit wasn't just inconvenient. It was calculated. It hit at a moment when Jay and Beyoncé were already under scrutiny for their proximity to Diddy. Social media exploded with speculation. Fans dug up old photos, clips, and interviews, piecing together a narrative that painted the Carters as not just bystanders, but possible enablers. And then there's the wild conspiracy theory that's been gaining traction online, that Beyoncé herself holds some kind of unseen power over the entertainment industry. It sounds absurd, like something out of a thriller novel, but the whispers are impossible to ignore. Celebrities thanking Beyoncé for no apparent reason, cryptic shoutouts and acceptance speeches, JoJo Siwa's bizarre comment at the Industry Dance Awards, where she thanked Beyonce for keeping the dance community safe. What does that even mean?
Because she has made this very clear, she wants her kids to have a relationship with their father. She's not trying to stand in the way of that. But when he says things like this, at some point, she has to be thinking, I don't know if this is good for our kids to be around this.
The speculation reached such a fever pitch that even Beyonce's most loyal fans started asking questions. Could it be true? Could she and Jay-Z have been aware of, or worse, complicit in the kinds of activities Diddy is now being accused of? The idea seems unthinkable, but then again, so did much of what's coming out about Diddy. The Carter's response has been swift and decisive. Though not exactly transparent, Jay-Z's lawyers have gone into overdrive, filing motions, issuing statements, and doing everything in their power to separate their client from the growing pile of allegations. Meanwhile, Beyonce has stayed silent, her usual approach when controversy comes knocking. But silence speaks volumes, especially in an industry where public perception is everything, and the silence surrounding their relationship with Diddy only adds fuel to the fire.
I anticipate that we're going to start filing lawsuits, and it may not be big names at first, but we have a long list of names, and you might imagine in situations like this.
Of course, the lawsuits aren't just about what happened years ago. They're about what's happening now. In another civil case filed just last month, Jay-Z and Beyonce were again named, this time in connection with an alleged incident at a Diddy-hosted party in Miami. The details are almost too surreal to believe. Secret tunnels connecting mansions, bizarre rituals, and a list of attendees that reads like a who's who of Hollywood royalty. Jay-Z's team has already denied the allegations, pointing out that he wasn't even in Miami on the day in question. But the fact that his name keeps appearing in these documents is enough to make people wonder, why does he keep showing up in these stories? And how many more stories are out there waiting to be told?
With just the statement from Jay-Z, which is so forceful in its denial. I just read a teeny part of it, it's long, where he says that they should file a criminal complaint. Is that even possible at this point?
Beyonce's name, too, has been dragged into the mess, though in a different way. While Jay-Z is facing direct accusations, Beyonce's involvement seems to be more about what she represents. Power, influence, and an almost mythical status that makes her untouchable. But untouchable doesn't mean uninvolved. Beyonce has been photographed with Diddy countless times over the years. From red carpets to private events, she's collaborated with him professionally and attended his infamous parties. And while she may not be facing the same kind of scrutiny as her husband, her proximity to Diddy raises uncomfortable questions. How much did she see? And how much did she turn a blind eye to? Then there's the matter of the other celebrities named in these lawsuits. People like LeBron James, Usher, and even Odell Beckham Jr. The allegations against them vary wildly, from casual bystanders to more active participants. But the common thread is Diddy. He's the one who connects them all, the gravitational force pulling everyone into his orbit. And if these lawsuits are to be believed, that orbit was a very dark place.
So, it's interesting because, obviously this civil suit was coming for a while.
Yep.
And there was some talk between Busby and Jay-Z's lawyers. I think both Busby and Jay-Z's lawyers are really alphas.
As the trial date looms closer, the tension is palpable. Diddy's lawyers are reportedly gearing up for an all-out war, combing through decades of evidence and preparing to challenge every accusation. But what happens if the evidence points not just to Diddy, but to the people around him? What happens if the trial becomes less about one man and more about an entire culture of complicity? Because make no mistake, this isn't just a trial, it's a reckoning. And for the people who've spent years building their empires, their legacies, and their carefully curated images, the stakes couldn't be higher. And if that wasn't enough to leave Hollywood on edge, the rabbit hole goes even deeper. Because while Jay-Z and Beyonce scramble to distance themselves, there's another name in this tangled mess that refuses to be ignored. Yay! The man who seems to thrive on chaos has decided to plant himself firmly in the middle of a storm that's already threatening to tear the industry to shreds. But what's his angle? Is he trying to save Diddy? Or is he using his so-called loyalty as a smokescreen for something even more self-serving?
Let me read this Harley text. This is how he was written. This is a trainer, but come to find out, he was actually Canadian intelligence, but this is my trainer.
Let's not forget, yeah, and Diddy's relationship has always been a roller coaster of admiration and rivalry. But now it's taken a turn that even the most seasoned industry insiders didn't see coming. While most celebrities are ducking for cover, Ye has gone all in, loudly, and repeatedly defending Diddy, even as the allegations against him have reached a level that's almost impossible to ignore. Whether it's his social media outbursts or that bizarre track he dropped featuring vocals from Diddy himself, recorded no less from a jailhouse phone call, Ye seems determined to tie himself to Diddy's sinking ship. But why? What does he gain by aligning himself with someone whose name is plastered across every scandalous headline in the country?
You already made everybody think I'm crazy. You already took my family away. You already separated all my friends.
I don't got no celebrity friends.
Some are calling it a calculated move, a way for Ye to position himself as the ultimate contrarian in a world that's increasingly turning its back on Diddy. After all, Ye has made a career out of being the outsider, the disruptor, the guy who says what no one else dares to. But others aren't so sure, because if West's recent actions are any indication, this isn't just about being controversial for controversy's sake. No, this feels personal, almost as if he sees himself in Diddy, or worse, as if he thinks Diddy's downfall could somehow become his salvation. Take that now infamous Drink Champs interview, for example. He didn't just defend Diddy. He made it clear that he's willing to burn bridges, ruin relationships, and torch what's left of his reputation to stand by him. He accused others in the industry, many of whom were once his closest allies, of turning their backs on Diddy. And then, in true Ye fashion, he doubled down, claiming that anyone who didn't support Diddy was part of a larger conspiracy to silence powerful voices in the Black community. It was a daring remark, certainly, but one that left even his most devoted followers puzzled. Was Ye genuinely trying to rewrite the narrative? Or was he simply spiraling, using Diddy's controversy as a way to deflect from his own?
But as far as Meek Mills, Puff Daddy, whoever, none of these all you fake hard niggas, fuck you.
Because let's not pretend he doesn't have his own skeletons rattling in the closet. His relationship with Diddy has always been complicated, to say the least. And while Ye has publicly credited Diddy as one of his biggest inspirations, there are whispers, louder now than ever, that their dynamic was far from equal. Industry insiders have long speculated that West's earliest years in the game were marked by a near obsessive need to prove himself to Diddy, and that resentment has lingered just below the surface ever since. So, is he really standing by Diddy out of loyalty, or is this some kind of twisted power play, a way to finally flip the dynamic and show the world that he's the one calling the shots now? But here's where things get even messier, because he isn't just defending Diddy in the court of public opinion. He's reportedly been reaching out to other celebrities, urging them to do the same. Sources close to the situation say Ye has been making phone calls, sending messages, and even showing up unannounced at events to rally support for Diddy. And while some have flat out refused to get involved, others, perhaps out of fear, loyalty, or sheer confusion, are staying silent, unwilling to publicly condemn either man. The result? A fractured industry where allegiances are being tested like never before.
We get to a point where we don't think that Kanye West can shock us anymore, and then he says something that is so shocking, so alarming. It's one thing to go after Kim, say whatever you want, I guess. It's his ex-wife. It's horrible, but he says it. To say things that will redound against the kids is just unforgivable. I mean, we've been through this so many times. We say it all the time. Wearing the Nazi shirt is unforgivable. The Klan hood itself.
And then there's the music. That track he dropped, featuring his own daughter North in a snippet of Diddy's voice, has set off a firestorm of backlash, not just from fans, but from West's own inner circle. Kim Kardashian, for one, is reportedly furious, claiming that Ye is recklessly dragging their family into a scandal that has nothing to do with them, but Ye doesn't seem to care. If anything, he's leaning in harder, doubling down on his support for Diddy and using every opportunity to paint himself as a misunderstood visionary standing up for what's right. It's a narrative Ye has spun before, but this time, the stakes are higher than ever. Because if Diddy's trial goes the way many expect it to, anyone who's aligned themselves with him could find their own careers, and reputations as dragged down in the process. But Ye isn't the only one playing a dangerous game. Jennifer Lopez, Diddy's high-profile ex, has been conspicuously silent as the walls close in around him. And while some might see her silence as a calculated move to protect her own image, others wonder if it's something more. After all, J.Lo and Diddy's relationship was marked by its fair share of controversy, including that infamous nightclub incident that nearly derailed both of their careers. At the time, J.Lo stood by Diddy even as he faced legal trouble and public scrutiny. But now, she's nowhere to be found, and that absence speaks volumes.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about the kids at some point here, and not for the younger ones, it's at some point. For North, it's right now, right? That even if she doesn't see it, even if somehow Kim is able to keep that away from her, the kids that her friends at school, they're going to know about it. They're going to see it. And it puts the kids in a horrible situation.
Because make no mistake, J.Lo knows things. She was there during some of Diddy's most turbulent years. She partied with him, and shared a life with him, and shared a life with him, even if only briefly. And while she's managed to rebuild her career and image in the years since their breakup, the question remains, how much of what's coming out now did she already know? And if she did know, why didn't she say anything? It's a question that's haunting not just J.Lo, but everyone who's ever been connected to Diddy. Because as these lawsuits pile up, it's becoming increasingly clear that this isn't just about one man's actions. It's about an entire network of complicity. And that network, it's vast. From athletes to actors to other musicians, the list of names being dragged into this mess reads like a who's who of Hollywood. LeBron James, Usher, Ashton Kutcher, each of them has been named, either directly or indirectly, in connection with Diddy's alleged behavior. And while some have issued statements denying any involvement, others have stayed eerily quiet, leaving fans and critics alike to wonder, what are they hiding? Because in a scandal, this big silence isn't just suspicious, it's damning.
I came here today just to tell the truth, so hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time, we'll start to see that.
But silence isn't the only thing raising eyebrows. The lawsuits themselves are painting a picture of an industry that thrives on secrecy, manipulation, and a level of complicity that's almost too vast to comprehend. One of the most jaw-dropping claims comes from a former assistant of Diddy's who alleges that part of her job was to organize and oversee events that catered to his most private preferences. While she hasn't named specific names in her complaint, the legal filings imply that several high-profile guests attended these events, and that some of those guests may have turned a blind eye to what was happening behind closed doors. Her lawyer has hinted that more details, and possibly more names, could emerge as the trial progresses, leaving Hollywood insiders bracing for a domino effect.
In her civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and rape at the hands of Diddy.
And then there's the matter of the so-called off-the-record agreements that have come to light. According to leaked documents from one of the lawsuits, Diddy's team allegedly used non-disclosure agreements as a weapon to silence both employees and collaborators. These NDAs weren't just about protecting trade secrets or business operations. They were allegedly designed to prevent anyone from speaking out about the parties, the guests, and what really went down when the cameras weren't rolling. One former employee even claimed that breaking the terms of these agreements came with the threat of financial ruin, something that kept many people quiet for years. Now, as these agreements are being scrutinized in court, the question is, who else signed one? And what might they be hiding? What's even more shocking is the sheer number of lawsuits still waiting to be heard. Legal experts say that there's a backlog of cases involving Diddy that could take years to resolve, and that's not counting the ones that have yet to be filed. Several alleged victims have reportedly been in contact with their lawyers, weighing their options and deciding whether to go public. The stakes couldn't be higher, not just for Diddy, but for anyone who was part of his inner circle. Because if even half of these allegations hold up in court, they could set a precedent that changes the entertainment industry forever.
Second option, I have you institutionalized again, where they medicate the crap out of you and you go back to zombie land forever.
So where does this all end? That's the billion-dollar question. Because as Diddy's trial approaches, the tension in Hollywood is palpable. Friendships are being tested, alliances are crumbling, and careers are hanging by a thread. And while some are desperately trying to distance themselves, others, like Ye, are diving headfirst into the chaos, seemingly oblivious to the collateral damage they might cause. But what about you? Do you think he is genuinely standing up for what he believes in, or is this just another chapter in his long history of self-destruction? And what about Jennifer Lopez? Does her silence make her complicit, or is she just doing what she has to do to protect herself? Let us know what you think in the comments, and trust us, this is one story you're going to want to keep following. Because if what we've seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg, you won't believe what's coming next. Stay tuned.